Please ask your question.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I was listening to you respond to some of the questions earlier, and one of my questions was touched on, so I guess I'll move on to the next one. But just to piggyback off job creation, one of the major aspects of job creation under the MPP is the Nabco program. And quite recently, you would recall, sir, that they were threatening to go on a demonstration because they were owed 9 months arrears. Now, even Heal Ghana, and this is something I followed keenly, so I've had conversations with them. Heal Ghana, even before the 9 months, were owed 7 months. And so if you combine the two, they're complaining that they haven't been paid 16 months arrears. And that's a major problem. What do you intend to do about it? And if I can quickly, this was just a piggyback.
No, I have one question.
If I could just
so that Fianco can come. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
If there's the opportunity. Thank you, Fianco.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. I want to take my question from your manifesto for this year's election, and I'm looking at provide better health care for all. Now, you did mention that you were going to offer incentives for healthcare workers to buy 1 vehicle each with engine capacity up to 1.8 liter. Now, for clarity purpose, is it that these vehicles, they would buy them outside and they will be duty free? If that is it, we know we have about 5 automobile companies in this country. Your government brought them. How would this policy boost their production and also enhance the kind of people they would want to work with? Because if they are going to import these cars, we are not really helping them. Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm grateful.
Held it.
Let me remove my cap. Before I proceed to ask my questions, I would like to emphatically state that these questions were not given to me by anyone here. They are from my head, so I'm going to ask. Now, Mr. Vice President, my name is Kojo Sheldon. I represent Kojo Sheldon Studios. The first one is about 322 pharmaceutical doctors on social media right now are planning on suing the health ministry about unpaid, allowances. Now, for someone that has highlighted in your manifesto that when voted into power, you are going to, improve or help improve the condition of services when it comes to conditions of service when it comes to our health people. For right now that you are the vice president, what can you do to help these pharmaceutical, doctors who are, contemplating on suing the Ministry of, Health? My second question borders.
No, Koyo. Don't do that to me.
Mr. The question
is. You have one question.
Oh, boy.
One question.
So my question, the second question is about perception.
Don't do that.
Boss.
Don't do that.
Oh, boy.
Don't do that.
I
didn't allow
perception is very, very important.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Peace FM.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Nana Akesi. I work with Peace FM. You have promised abolishing bed tax, e-levy, flat import duty, one-time tax amnesty, among others. If you really believe that that is what Ghana needs, why should we wait till you become the president and not implement it now?
Need to go to this. I see Samson Ladi.
Good evening, Your Excellency. So, my question is coming from a group of students on scholarship abroad. They are concerned that the Scholarship Secretariat is not doing what it has to do for them. At page 27 of your manifesto, you speak about harmonizing public scholarships. And there's a purpose for it. You say the purpose is to give full visibility. Beyond the visibility, what will you do about this now and not later? There are some of them, for 20 months, they have not received their stipends. In a number of universities in the UK, in Warwick, Coventry, Nottingham, they are under threat of losing their studentship. In Birmingham, 11 of them have already been withdrawn and they are facing deportation. Will you inquire, particularly knowing about the Fourth Estate's investigations dubbed Scholarship Bonanza, about what appears to be a racketeering in that place? And will you forbid and prohibit politically exposed persons wealthy enough, known in society, from accessing these scholarships? Thank you.
I think the question is very well. After, let me go to the regions. We've done plenty. Accra, Western North. Please give the microphone to the Western North guy. We've done Eastern, we do Western North, we would do the other regions as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Esposito Inokedusei. I work with the Beat FM. Somewhere in last year, the former President Mahama on his campaign tour in Western North region claimed Cocoa Board is on the verge of collapse. Do you believe Cocoa Board has collapsed? And what is your plans for Cocoa Board? I don't want to go deep. Thank you.
Thank you. Sami Yafe.
Excellency, good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Sami Yafe. I work with CTFM and Channel 1 TV. So a few meters away from us is the site for the construction of the National Cathedral. We know huge sums of money have been sunk into the project. What will you do about it if or when you become president of this country? Thank you very much.
Excellency, please take these questions and then.
Thank you very much. Let me take them in the order in which they were asked. I think that the first question had to do with Nabco, the Nation Builders Corps, and the arrears that have been owed to Nabco. I think that the program had about 100,000 people on it, and I think initially it was supposed to be a 3-year program, and then would be renewed and so on. But I think that so far, out of the 100,000 that were taken, 34,000 have exited into permanent jobs under Nabco, and the others are still. But I think that the issue that Bella raises is the arrears and how we are going to deal with it. I've raised this issue because this is not really there's some information that has come to me already about the arrears in the Nabco program, and I've raised this issue with the Minister for Finance and trying to persuade them to make these arrears payments. So we will follow that up on behalf of the Nabco employees. The second issue has to do with providing better health care in the manifesto and the issue of cars and how these will affect local companies. I think that what is very clear when you look at the manifesto is that we did not really say it was only for imported. The incentives would only be for imported vehicles, because you just said you will provide incentives. Clearly, under President Kufuor, there were incentives for healthcare workers and also for teachers to bring in vehicles, and they will waive the import duty, and that basically worked but was abused. We think that with digitalization and the unique identity of people, we can better monitor this situation. But the issue is that we need to be able to see how these teachers and these nurses could also acquire with the necessary incentives from the local manufacturing companies. I mean, as you know, the numbers of teachers and nurses are very, very large relative to the production capacity of some of the firms here. But we are leaving that open to discuss with them and with the manufacturing companies here to see how we can incentivize. Our preference clearly is to buy local. And so we will work with them to see how best, if they can meet the terms in terms of production on time and all of that. I think we will try to incentivize them. But we will leave it open for discussion, and that's what we've done. The other issue was that we wanted to do these tax reforms, import duty, flat tax, tax amnesty, and so on. But why don't I do it now? And why do I want to? I must have a manifesto. Otherwise, if I do everything now, if I could, what would I do when I come into office? I mean, how can you do everything now? Even President Mahama, former president, who was president, I'm only vice president, but he was president. Why didn't he do everything then? I mean, why is he coming back? He had full authority. I don't have full authority. The budget that has gone to Parliament, which has been passed, is not my budget. Is it my budget? It's not my budget. The budget goes in the name of the president. It doesn't go in the name of the vice president. But when you have to think about what new do you want to do, you come up with new ideas. And I've come up with new ideas which I want to do when we come into office. Everyone who is running for office, whether you are Kamala Harris or you are Bawumia, you still have to think about what you have to do when you get into office. And this is why I'm presenting my new ideas as to what to do. Samson talked about the scholarship students and all of that. And I think this is a very, very important issue. There's nothing more heart-wrenching than taking a student abroad and not being able to take care of them in those circumstances. And I think that I believe, and this is what we are saying, that one needs to, first of all, harmonize these databases so that you have full visibility and transparency. And also, we have undertaken in the manifesto to publish all the beneficiaries of all of these scholarships as they come, so that everybody knows who is getting the scholarships and so on. And again, I've been made very aware of this issue. It's not new, because students have and parents have gotten in touch with me about the awards and scholarships and so on. So we're talking with the Ministry of Finance and the Scholarship Secretariat. I think they were able to make some payments to some of the UK students and so on. But we will follow up on that because it's very urgent. Cocoa Board is on the verge of collapse. I'm not aware of that, but we'll look at that. I cannot comment on that. It's not. I don't know where the data is coming from. Then the National Cathedral. National Cathedral, again, is a very, very important issue because taxpayers' money has gone into it, and many people would like to see it completed. And I believe that one should have an engagement with the churches and all the stakeholders for us to see how best to get the funding to complete the project. But I think that we need to sit down and talk if the design has to be looked at again to make sure it can be completed. We have to put everything on the table. But I will be minded more by the churches and the church leaders and the discussions that we should have with them on the way forward. But I think it's an important issue. Thank you.
The sports fraternity, so the PFM.
Hello.
PFM Sports. Your Excellency, there was a question about the pharmacy staff and their arrears. If you can clear that one, then.
Yes, the pharmacists are my very good friends. But you're talking about 322 pharmaceutical doctors who are threatening to sue the Ministry of Health for their allowances. Again, I want to take this one up. This is the first time I'm hearing about this particular issue. I think it is Sheldon who raised it. I'm not aware of it, but I think it's an important issue that we should really resolve. So we'll talk to the Ministry of Health and Finance. Thank you very much.
We'll take Kankambodi's question from the sports, I believe. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. Before I go to my question, I'd like to draw your attention to the sad issue of the national amputee team. They apparently won the African Amputee Championship. They are owed per diems and bonuses and have not been paid. And they feel very neglected. And we all know that the strength of every nation is determined by how well they treat the vulnerable in society. In your manifesto, you talk about building 6 new stadiums in the 6 new regions. Currently, we have 5 major national stadiums, and only one, that's the Kumasi Sports Stadium, is fit enough to host a FIFA or CAF organized senior national team game. So I want to know what motivated that decision. And since we are even struggling to maintain 5, how well can we do if we have 11? Thank you.
Thank you, Kankambodu. We'll do. So, give the microphone to Ahini, please. It's right there. Please give the microphone to her. From the Ashanti region.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Ohinini Adazwa, Sumpa TV, Sumpa Radio, Kumasi.
Ja, Rastafari.
Selassie, I. In your manifesto, page 24C, you did mention something about flat rate. So let's say somebody import car engines and somebody second-hand clothing. Are they going to pay the same amount? I think we need better and further particulars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ohini. So, that's Ohini.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Dachen Nanayawa Sante from Onuya FM. Your Excellency, respectfully, there is a saying that we should cry our own cry. You made a promise to teachers that you give them the opportunity of having cars. We know our minimum wage and where it stands, and the tripartite committee view it to 18.44 cities. The standard of living in Ghana is going high. Your Excellency, what will you do for 90% of people who are seated here today to carry your message on? They are journalists. Thank you.
So, what's your question? For what will you do for the journalist? Is that a question? Okay. Otek. Mr. Buesiako from Otek, Ashanti. Please let's hear Mr. Buesiako from Ashanti.
Yes. Your Excellency, I want to congratulate my MP, Honorable Dr. Opoki Prempeh. Honorable, Your Excellency, you highlighted 14 key promises in your manifesto, but none of them were apportioned timelines on it. So how can you hold you accountable if not? Because it seems to become mere political rhetorics. Thank you.
Okay, Ibrahim. Ibrahim from GH1.
Thank you very much, GH1. Your Excellency. My name is Ibrahim Al Hassan, GH1 TV Star. Your Excellency, of course, forgive me for taking you back in 2016 when you were on the campaign trail. You had this declaration, and it's a very famous one. Parents are suffering, students are suffering, traders are suffering, pensioners are suffering, drivers are suffering, contractors are suffering, civil servants are suffering, farmers are suffering, fishermen are suffering, men are suffering, women are suffering, children are suffering, and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering. May I know the status of suffering of these individuals today?
I'll take Vanessa from Metro TV Accra, then I'll come to Adinkakam. So please get a microphone to Andy, and then Vanessa will speak. And then I'll come to you later. But Vanessa, Andy, then.
Thank you. My name is Vanessa Idotumboateng from Metro TV. Mr. Vice President, you will remember this quote: if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rates will expose you. And as at the time you were making this statement, a dollar to CD was 3 cedis and above, or about 3 cedis, 4 cedis, right? Thank you. 2024, a dollar to a cedi is 15 Ghana cedis, about 15 Ghana cedis. Okay, over 15 Ghana cedis. Thank you. How do I explain this to my mother, a cocoa seller, that in 2014 the fundamentals were weak? In 2024, where a dollar is now 15 cedis, the fundamentals are not weak, but the prices of goods and services are high today. Thank you.
Okay. Please. No. Yes, let Abina come and then you come. I want to hear more of the ladies at the point.
Bebacho FM Abina Pokua ahwini me wadum TV eni adum FM. Na masebisa yes ba ko kanka beka didi kai. Bebacho pesi e share Dr. Baumia ne hihye fofra wode ebeko etia galamsey ayadia so man ko ache eno achi so Afram Plains 2016 MPP share call for ball some of the bridge better Afram soon so me person me huna ho hye ya kodun Koko Sports Stadium so me person me hunu baby atibia no e wo asat na medase.
Thank you. We'll take Nanaya, then His Excellency would give the responses. Please go ahead.
Good evening, His Excellency. I would like my question to be answered in Chi, but I'll ask it in English.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll ask it in Chi. I just want to know, say, in the first 100 days, if Ghanaians decide to vote for you, what would be the things you would want to tackle first?
Thank you. Let's take the responses and then we'll come back to the questions. Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the first question is looking at the national amputee team who are owed some allowances. So I'll talk to the sports minister here to get the facts on the issue, and if that is the case, I will try to expedite their payment. So I'll when I leave here, I'm going to raise that issue. There is also the issue of 6 new stadia that and only one of the existing 5 is being maintained. I think that is a very good question. One of the problems we have is the lack of maintenance of our pitches. I met with the Black Stars in Kumasi before their last game there, and when we met, the coach and the players were very clear that what they really needed, and this is why I've put it in our manifesto, was an international standard pitch. You know, that the pitches that we have are difficult to play on, and we needed international standard pitches. So, in fact, in the manifesto, we need to do it. And I believe that we need professional management in terms of the maintenance of these pitches. And we need to train people and also bring in the people with the knowledge. And so we are going to do that, because we just build the pitches and very little maintenance of the pitches and the management of the pitches. So I think this is going to be one of the things that we are going to do. The building of the 5 other stadia, as I said, you know, we've made that commitment actually as far back as 2019, that with all these new regions that are coming on board, we will have to build stadia for them to encourage sports. And I believe that we've done quite a few already in terms of the multi-purpose sports stadia. We are doing 10. We've completed 6. 4 are almost done, and we are going to do another 5. So, I mean, the record is there that we've done 10. I think that we can do another 5 without much of a problem. Then the question came on the flat rate and whether second-hand clothing and spare parts will be paying the same rate. No, I think that the categories will be different. And with the flat rate, what we want to do is to bring a lot more predictability in import duty payment. At the moment, there isn't predictability, and there's a lot of discretion that seems to come in from time to time. And so what we are saying is that we're going to bring in a flat rate in cities. So if you are bringing in spare parts, and there's a 40-foot container of spare parts, you will know exactly what the duty is for the spare parts. Say 20,000 cedis or 15,000 cedis or 30,000 cedis. It's a flat rate. So when the 40-foot container arrives of the spare parts, then you know you will pay 40,000. If you are bringing in second-hand clothing, and that is attracting 20,000 cedis duty, you will know beforehand that it will come. It's not that it will arrive and then the price will change because they will say the exchange rate has changed, so you pay more. But it will be a flat rate. So there's not going to be any confusion. Chicken will attract a different rate from, spare parts will attract a different rate from rice, will attract a different rate from second-hand clothing. But you will know beforehand, before you import the goods, they will all be published. And so that we get away from, these under-invoicing and misclassification issues. These are really hampering revenue collection. Many importers invest time in misclassifying. They'll bring in chicken and they'll say it is fish or something. But the misclassification and so on, we will have to deal with that. Then the issue about cars for teachers and what we want to do for journalists and all of that. I really believe that one of the major problems, and we address this in the manifesto, that hampers workers and livelihoods in our country is the fact that we operate a cash-based system. Unlike in the advanced world where they operate a credit-based system. So in ab initio, life is much harder if you are a teacher in Ghana versus if you are a teacher in the US or the UK. Even if you are paid the same amount every month, the teacher in the UK will consume probably 5 to 6 times more goods than you in Ghana. Why? Because they are able to obtain credit and pay over time. And so, we in Ghana here, we have to accumulate cash for whatever we want to buy. If you want to buy a car and the car is costing 100,000 or 150,000, you have to look for 150,000 to pay for the car. But if you were in the UK, you'll probably be paying 1,000 every month to pay for the car, or much less. But so your salary goes along a much longer way. So one of the things that we are bringing in as far as our manifesto is concerned is to move Ghana from a cash-based system to a credit-based system. It's very, very important, because the reason why the credit-based system works in the advanced countries, because they are able to compute credit scores for everybody. Credit scoring is key to a credit-based system, because it then assesses the risk of any borrower in terms of borrowing money for a fridge or a car or a TV or whatever. So the credit scoring becomes very key. 14 years ago, I wrote a book on monetary policy and financial sector reform in Africa. This was in 2010. And in this book, I was making the case for why Ghana and Africa generally, we needed to move towards the credit-based systems. And the reason why is to really bring down the stress on living in our system. The reason why they are able to do what the credit system in the advanced countries is because the databases exist for the computation of the credit scores. So the what you need, a unique identity that exists, address, it exists, financial inclusion, a bank account where it exists. So when we came into office, I was very clear in my mind where we wanted Ghana to go. We needed to put in place the digital address system, the Ghana card, which we have done. We needed to put in place the address system. When we looked at the address system, I realized that it was going to be very difficult to go with what we had before, street addresses and so on. So I propose that we go with digital address systems. I mean, at the time, only one country in the world, Mongolia, had a digital address, a wholesale digital address system. Only one country in the world. But I said, look, Ghana should move in that direction because we can leverage on GPS technology and have a digital address system. Now, we have been able to get a digital address system, and we are the second country in the whole world to have a wholesale digital address system. Every part of Ghana, we can have a digital address. Now, then the third leg of this to allow us to get to credit scoring was to make sure most Ghanaians would have a bank account so that your financial transactions can be scored and monitored and so on. But when we came in, I realized that, of course, very small percentage of people had bank accounts, but a lot of people had mobile money accounts, and so I made the point that the key to get everybody financially included was to have that interoperability between the mobile money account and the bank account. And so we were able to do this mobile money interoperability. And so today, Ghana now has all the elements. All the elements are now in place for Ghana to move to a credit-based system. All the elements are now in place. And so we expect credit score. In fact, interestingly, when I made the point that individual credit scoring doesn't yet exist in Ghana, people were actually arguing, saying that wasn't true, but that is absolutely true. So we are going to begin, proper wholesale individual credit scoring, which would then provide us a basis so that people can buy their cars. And someone was talking about the local producers and all of that. Once they know that we can offer this to teachers and they can pay over time, or to journalists and they can pay over time, and they don't have to bring all the cash at once, then life will be much more bearable to all of us. So my expectation is that the credit scoring system, things are moving much faster than I expected. It's now manifesto, we're moving to it, but I think that it's likely to begin before the end of this year because of where we are now. I expect to launch it reasonably soon because of where we are now. We've got everything in place but that will fundamentally change everything for Ghana. Currently in sub-Saharan Africa, it's only one country that has a credit scoring system and a credit base. That is South Africa. Ghana will be, before the end of this year, the second country in sub-Saharan Africa with a credit-based system. But it will bring down the pressure on all of our workers once you enter into that. Then there was a question that went on the lack of timelines for the manifesto in terms of promises and so on. I think that when you are going for an election, you are going for an election for a 4-year term initially, isn't it? Yeah, so your promises have to be in line with that term of office, right? That this is what I want you to elect me to do these things, right? But I think that we have a pretty good record in terms of honoring our promises. We've done some work to look at our 2016 manifesto, what proportion of those promises we've honored, and it has been 83% of the 2016 manifesto has been honored, 83%. And then when you look at the 2020 manifesto, 2020, even in the midst of all these crises, we are fulfilling, or we've fulfilled 80% of our 2020 manifesto. My opponent in his 2012 manifesto, when he became president, he only fulfilled 28%. We've done the numbers. 28% of his 2012 manifesto. 280 promises. He didn't fulfill 203 of the 280 promises. He only fulfilled 28% of his promises. So I think that we have a better record as far as fulfilling promises. And when I put something down, I usually have a good idea how I'm going to get it done. And so that is I think something that we are going to look at. I think that the issue has come about suffering, and I remember very well, my statements. Teachers are suffering, and doctors are suffering, and journalists are suffering, and everybody is suffering. In 2016, which was the case actually, in that regard. But I think that we've moved on significantly since 2016, and we can point to a few things that we have, because at the end of the day, you reduce suffering broadly by creating jobs so that you give people something to do, or you bring in some social interventions to ameliorate the problems, the hardships that are there. So you need to look at what we have done. We've created at least 2.1 million jobs. Per capita income in CD terms has gone up almost more threefold. In dollar terms, per capita income from 2016 has gone up from 1,978 to 2,436. So GDP has gone up, per capita income has also gone up. As I said, we've kept all public sector workers employed. We didn't lay off anyone during the COVID, and we have done that, and we've kept the lights on. We suffered so much from doomsday. Everybody was suffering from doomsday, but we have kept the lights on for 8 years. Teacher trainees were suffering. We've restored their teacher trainee allowances. Nursing trainees were suffering. We've restored their allowances. People who were using the NHIS had major issues. The people who had sickle cell were suffering because the hydroxyurea, which was really needed and wasn't covered by the NHIS. Today it is covered by the NHIS. Today kidney dialysis is covered, as well as childhood cancer was also covered. You also see that for the people, the issue of rent advance, the National Rental Assistance Scheme has come in to really help in that. During COVID, we gave free water for a year, free electricity. For people in the rural areas and remote areas, we've brought in medical drones to deliver medicines, vaccines, blood across 2,694 health facilities. And even recently, when there was flooding because of rain in the Afram Plains, we had to get the drones to take examination papers over there, which were not initially. Parents have now had the benefit of free SHS for 8 years, have had the benefit of free TVET, and therefore the suffering of a lot of parents in paying fees has also reduced. School feeding, when we were coming in 2016, only 1.6 million children benefited from school feeding. Today, 4 million children are benefiting from school feeding, more than double. We have also absorbed the examination fees for all students, for BEC and WACC examinations. And then, as I said before, we've doubled the number of student loan recipients from 30,000 to 58,000. We've introduced the no guarantor student loans. A lot of students who were suffering, looking for guarantors, now just need their Ghana card and they will get it. You know, so we've done quite a bit we brought in one constituency, one ambulance, and we procured the ambulances for many of our constituencies or many of our districts. And also, if you look at the small and medium enterprises who had major problems in accessing funding, we've provided funding over the last 8 years to 444,000 SMEs, 1.4 billion Ghana cedis, which has been quite significant by any account and very historic in that regard. So I think that yes, the suffering is there, but we've done a lot of social interventions to ameliorate that suffering. It's not gone, but at least we can point to things that have gone in to reduce the suffering of our people. I mean, even renewing National Health Insurance card was a problem. Just to renew it, many people had to go and sleep. I know in my constituency, people had to go to the NHI office and sometimes sleep for 3 days before they could renew National Health Insurance membership. But today, you just sit in your home and renew. Today, you sit in your home and buy electricity credit. You don't need to take trotro or taxi and go somewhere else to do it. So we've done quite a bit to reduce the suffering of people, even though, of course, it is not complete. We still have more to do, and we'll continue. So the other question, which is a nice one, Vanessa was asking, if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you, which is a truism. It was true then, and it's still true today. It's an economic truism that once the fundamentals weaken, you will see the impact on the exchange rate fundamentally. And when we talk about many of these fundamentals, you're talking about the GDP growth rate, you're talking about the fiscal balance, you're talking about the exchange, the reserves, level of the reserves that you have, inflation, and so on. When we came into office, during the first term before we hit COVID, between 2017 and 2019, you saw the fundamentals pretty much strengthening by all accounts. And the exchange rate depreciated in those 3 years by less than 5%. That was the lowest depreciation in the currency for 28 years. 28 years. That was the lowest depreciation of the currency. I think we went up, even after COVID, we didn't get that high a depreciation. But the biggest shock for the economy came in 2022. All hell was breaking loose in 2022. Inflation, 54% as at November 2022. Exchange rate had depreciated at 54%. And of course, you could look at the fundamentals were in trouble at that time. You saw the fiscal deficit going up, you saw inflation going up, growth declining. And so for me, it wasn't surprising, even though it was shocking, the extent to which the exchange rate went. So the point that we are making is that once the fundamentals weaken, you will get in the exchange rate. And this is why we have seen that recently, even though we're depreciating in November at 54%, this year the depreciation has been 18.6% so far, right? We're looking at about 18.6%. So you are looking at a situation this year. Why is the depreciation lower? Because the fundamentals have strengthened. The fiscal deficit is under 5%. We are running a primary surplus. Growth has gone up first quarter to 4.7%, higher than projected. The reserves are increasing, and the gold for oil program is helping. So as the fundamentals and inflation today is around 20%. So there's been a strengthening of the fundamentals, and you've also seen more relative exchange rate stability. In all of this, and I want you to take this away. When I look at what was happening in 2022, the 54% depreciation of the cedi, it was very scary. In fact, in 2022, this economy was on the verge of collapse, because you saw our reserves declining very steeply. The exchange rate was blowing up, inflation was up, and my worry at that time, frankly, was that I could see this country moving towards Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was what was clearly in my mind at that time, because you saw protests in Sri Lanka. They had no fuel. Dumsor was there. And when you saw the way our reserves were moving in 2022, we were heading right in that direction, that we were going to get queues on the street. We couldn't buy fuel. We couldn't pay for so many things. And it was in that context that I came up with two policies. One was the gold for oil policy and the gold purchase program of the Bank of Ghana. Because when I looked at it, sometimes when they say necessity is the mother of invention, because when I looked at it, we were headed for disaster, But I made the case. I looked at the numbers, and I said, well, how are we going to get foreign exchange to buy fuel in this declining reserves? And then I looked at gold. I said, let's take a look at gold. I looked at the reserves of gold that we had, and it was 8.7 tons. 8.7. That is from independence to 2022. Our gold reserves were 8.7 tons. 8.7. When you looked at the US, they had 8,000 tons in gold reserves. The UK, Germany, France, all above 2,000, 3,000 tons. And Ghana, the largest gold producer in Africa, had 8.7 tons. So I said, this is something that we need to change. And so Ghana needs to start, because the thing about gold for us is that we don't have to export anything to get gold. If we have cedis, we'll buy gold right here locally. So we can use our cedis to buy gold without needing to export cocoa or oil or diamonds or timber. We just buy the gold locally. That is what we have that many countries don't have. It's just something that many countries don't have that opportunity to do so. So I then came up with that idea that let's do, since we don't have forex at the bank to pay for oil, let's use gold. And therefore we went into this gold for oil and gold purchase program for reserves. And what is very, very interesting, frankly, without this gold for oil, the gold purchase program, this economy would have collapsed. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. Why do I say so? In the last couple of years, Bank of Ghana under the gold purchase program has been able to buy $5 billion of gold. $5 billion of gold. Think about it. We've gone to the IMF to look for $3 billion, which is going to be paid over 3 years. And this is why we are going through. But locally, we've been able to buy $5 billion. And this is why there are no queues for petrol. This is why Dumso has not happened in Ghana. Because otherwise, where would you have gotten $5 billion from your reserves? Where would you have gotten $5 billion from reserves to keep up all the payments you needed to make? So that has been, for us, the game changer. And so the pilot that we are seeing with the gold purchase program and the gold for oil program, I want to institutionalize it. And this is why, by the grace of God, when I am president next year, we are going to institutionalize this. Someone asked me, why is it that the French West African countries have not seen depreciations in their currency? Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and all of these. I said, well, they are anchored. The currency is anchored to the euro through the French franc. So they are anchored. Unfortunately for Ghana, we don't have an anchor. There is no anchor for the city. So what I am going to introduce, what I want to institutionalize, is something that we have learned from this crisis. You will not find it in any textbook. Maybe some people will now write it in a textbook. You won't find it in a textbook. It's not in a textbook. Because what I'm going to do is fairly simple, as I said, but we have had to learn about it. Because what we are going to do is to say that if you want foreign exchange, and we've tried it already, the pilot, with some of the big companies. One big company had 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. They wanted to externalize 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. And they were looking for foreign exchange. Can you imagine the impact on our market? If someone comes out with 3.1 billion cedis looking for dollars. So they were trying to talk to the Bank of Ghana and all of that. So their chairman flew into the country and came to see me and said, we are having these problems and we have to externalize our dividends and all of that. We have 3.1 billion and we are looking for dollars. So looking for dollars from all the banks and all of that. So I listened to them and then I asked, will you take gold? They said, oh sure, gold is forex. That is not a problem. So I called the governor and I said, look, why don't we put this 3.1 billion through the gold purchase program? And guess what? It was done virtually overnight. And their money was given to them. So essentially, what we're saying is that the demand for the dollars, you bring your cedis. We have the gold. There's no doubt. I mean, the gold is there. I mean, we have 5 billion ounces even not yet explored, as the Geological Survey Authority has told us. That's $10 trillion. Right? So bring your cedis. We buy the gold, give you your forex. It's that simple. So your demand for the forex will be met by an equal supply of gold, and Ghana will see stability of the currency long term. So we're looking for a simple solution to a long-term stability for the cedi. And that is what we are bringing in, and that is what is happening. What I'll tell you, and I'm sure maybe some of you have heard, is that other countries have started coming to Ghana to learn about our gold purchase program. Yeah, other countries have started coming. The Bank of Ghana is inundated with requests for people to come and learn. As I said, this is not in textbooks. but this is what we are doing. So I think that the fundamentals ultimately has an impact on the exchange rate, but the crisis that we have gone through has now made us to think a bit outside the box and bring in this new solution. Now, Abnapukia was asking about Galamsey and what we are doing about it. And I yo. And maminka chui kakra. Galamsey, no, asamin ba kakra kakra. Ya pese ya sasa nshisha ewo ya mining sector. Say Galamsey for ni permit licenses yadi mo ya be sasa san nshisha no ya be ye na easy mrepa ma ubia oye Galamsey ene obenya mining license odebi chuma. So yedi some ranaba district committees, traditional leaders through the Minerals Commission umubenya licenses umube register ne umugana card. Then yebe community mining schemes, Geological Survey Authority be share umu survey no umu hu say ahana gold no wo ahana gold no and then say umu to gold no a trial and error ubako wako tu ha we nya na wako ha we nya na o say assassin no but yet the data ba na ya kanchira mu say Galamsey for or small scale miners ahana gold no wo into ye shisha community mining scheme wo ho amamo monko ho montoto omo ya na ya to omo gold no adia ko Bank of Ghana enti san shishe no na ye de ba mi be shishe Minerals Development Bank ama mining small scale mining sector no so said the Agric Development Bank ye shishe no for equiafo no ye shishe new Minerals Development Bank ama small scale miners na aboa omo no omo nya equipment ye de common use are there friend common user facilities if bia to gold now the shemu na ayi high percentage of gold amount sana yede beto ho ama obia in the community mining schemes so that omobenya more gold from their activities enti san ye san she basoa me gidi say Galamsey no ebetwa so yensizi obia excavator na yashino na or whatever sadia no ebetwa so na yedi akọ I heard about Afram Plains and then Koko. I don't know. I'm missing the Afram Plains question. The bridge.
Yeah.
Yes, the bridge.
And Koko Sports Stadium 2020. Mukase mo besi ehun she medase.
Yes. So the Afram Plains Bridge, I think, is one of the bridges that we are working under with the Korean facility. It's one of the projects that we've presented to be done under the Korean facility. When we say the Koreans have given us a grant and a concessional loan of $2 billion, and we've had to take a number of projects to them for funding. I think that bridge over there is one of them. And then the Nkoko Sports Stadium, I have to follow up with the minister on that one. I can't give you a direct answer on that. Then the question came, the first 100 days, what would you do? I'm definitely not taking a honeymoon. We are going to get straight to work to put things in place. I think that for me, the focus is on jobs. And so you have to put in the budget as quickly as possible so that you can make sure that the tax amnesty regime comes into place, the flat tax regime comes into place, so that by the time of your first budget in March, these things, the Ghana First, Buy Ghana First policy, that we put it in and pass the law so that we can get the Ghana First policy. The e-levy will go because we have to focus on digitalization of the economy, and so we need to take out the e-levy as well. So these are some of the things that I believe that we can do very, very, very quickly as we come in, within the first 100 days. But I think that we are going to be very, very hard at work to look at things that get business moving. The tariff structure for the businesses, commercial versus residential, we have to look at it. The flat rate regime has to come in immediately. Those things that will get business moving very quickly to create the jobs are the things that we are going to do immediately, so that we are serious about business and serious about job creation. Thank you very much.